This video contains explicit references to sexual violence against women, fatal violence against children, and some generally scary stuff. Viewer discretion is advised. When was the last time you heard something that scared you? Listening and watching are two very different ways of taking in information. And I don't know about you, but my ears find it much harder to lose focus than my eyes. Because listening is natural. We can't really turn it off. And it's a good filmmaker who knows how to play with that compulsion. When we watch films or TV, artistic tools like framing and depth of field can direct us towards what's important in a scene. When a character we care about is centre frame, it's natural for the number of windows in a room or a poster on the wall to kind of just blur away. But the reverse is true with audio. Every little detail matters to us when we're listening to something. We register every little shuffle and crack, every vocal tremor. We can't ignore them. At least, I can't. And if the bulk of a film's story is in what's heard and not what's seen, it can pack every millisecond with tension. This is the science behind what I call broadcast horror. Dark, tense thrillers that revolve around the action being told to the protagonist over a phone or a radio rather than having them see it firsthand. Maybe it's more of a subgenre, but I had to give it a name because of the territory it seized inside my head. It's a subject that transcends fiction. There are countless real-world examples of broadcast hijackings or manic call-ins throughout modern history.
They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of...
And it's exactly these kind of unnerving phone calls that take centre stage in Oliver Stone's 1988 film Talk Radio. Talk Radio takes us inside the working life of Texas DJ Barry Champlain. Barry's late-night chat show Night Talk has a huge audience. But it's not because people like him. It's because they hate him. Barry's what they call a shock jock. Barry styles Night Talk as if it's some kind of on-air neighbourhood, linking the local area so they can talk about their society and share views. But it's really just an excuse for Barry to say whatever he thinks will A, get a reaction, and B, win or get him out of the subsequent debate. And as you might expect, this kind of show attracts angry people. Crazy people. And since Night Talk isn't a national show, Barry knows all these people are just in the middle distance. Most of them can probably see that blinking red light at the top of the radio tower. And that sense of proximity really ups the stakes. It makes it feel like these people are breathing down Barry's neck, and that helps one caller in particular leave a horrifying impression. Barry receives a semi-anonymous call from a man named John, who is a self-confessed serial rapist. And it's a nightmare.
Do you remember me? I called, I said I was in Turtle Creek. Well, I raped 3 women since then. So tired of raping. I'm so tired of raping women. I got rage for them. I got rage for them.
And he's not bragging. He's begging. He wants to stop, he tells Barry. He's desperate to stop. But it's a compulsion. It's like trying to stop smoking. He says,
Barry, I can't help myself. I can't help
Yeah, all right. You have this irresistible...
And before Barry can get any useful information to stop John hangs up. Barry hasn't been able to stop this. He just knows now. He just knows it's going to happen out there somewhere. But how does this broadcast horror dynamic change when the callers aren't telling the host what they think, but what they see? Pontypool might be the most well-known example of broadcast horror in the West, and rightly so, due to the rampant horror it brings to the medium with its phone-in record of a zombie outbreak in a small Canadian town. Grant Massey is our host this time round, and he's not dissimilar from Barry Champlain. Barry's a big city DJ, and Grant is a recently fired big city DJ trying to make it on small town local radio. Grant forces stories of drug bust shootouts into his church basement broadcast as he struggles to alter his vibe for the weather readouts and school closures that are expected of him. But he's straight into his element when the station's own weatherman Ken Loney calls in with a story of people protesting en masse, suddenly swarming, breaking into buildings, attacking each other. An explosion of people, Ken calls it, being trampled and killed. Trucks and military vehicles. Madness. Ken Loney gets cut off. Confirmation's difficult. They can't get through to the police. But the reports keep coming. And keep getting stranger. A family in a car, trapped under a mountain of people. Groups of people repeatedly chanting strange phrases and imitating the squeaking sound of windshield wipers. A herd of people running around the woods at the edge of town. An eyewitness calls up. They're put on the air, but all we hear is screaming. It's chaotic. There's almost too much going on for anyone to correctly wrap their head around. When suddenly, they get Ken Loney back on the line. And suddenly, all that chaos is corralled together into one terrifying moment.
Can you tell us what happened? What's happening there, Ken?
I'll tell you this. I've seen things today that are gonna ruin the rest of my natural life, Grant. And I'm scared. I'm scared.
The fear in Ken's voice here makes me want to go and check if the front door's locked.
Some are naked and they're like dogs. And their eyes, that look, it's just a startled, kind of wild,
Oh, God, Grant.
Oh, okay, Ken, listen.
No, you don't understand. I'm looking.
One of these violent people, one of the zombies, is immobile nearby. Ken manages to put his phone close enough for us to hear what the zombie is saying.
What are we doing?
Listen.
Ken Loney describes a bizarre, violent incident. And without the visuals, we're not granted the mercy of recoiling in disgust at people being savagely murdered, or the liberty of confusion at what we're seeing. In audio, there's only the fear. Pontypool is a masterpiece, in my opinion, for more reasons than just what I've mentioned here. But it still doesn't quite exemplify the genre. Grant has a bunch of people there in person throughout the film, a whole church to walk around in, and the zombies themselves even make a physical appearance. But what happens when we get even closer than that? What happens when an entire story is told in the backs and forths of phone conversations, in one room, with literally none of the thrills being seen but only described? Then you end up with The Guilty, a Danish film that follows a single work shift of police dispatch officer Asger home. Police dispatch is a delicate job, and we can tell early on that Asger doesn't have the patience for it by the way he handles his calls. I mean, I've never worked police dispatch, but I'm pretty sure you're only meant to pass details and send cars, not interrogate the callers. It's something he's done that's landed him here. It's a punishment. He's frustrated. He wants to get out and do real work. He's a police officer, but he's just as much a prisoner as anybody he's arrested. But Asger's night gets an injection of excitement when he finally gets a chance to be a hero. A woman called Eben calls up, talking nonsense, calling Asger sweetie and telling him not to be afraid. Her voice is hushed, tearful, and it quickly transpires that the woman is a kidnapping victim, disguising the police call as a bedtime chat with her daughter. With simple yes or no questions, Asger needs to find out as much as he can about Eben's location, but in the course of Asger's impromptu investigation, the case develops into a grim ordeal. As he's confined to the station, Asger sends a police unit to investigate Eben's home, to check up on her daughter and to investigate the scene. Asger calls up Eben's house and speaks to her daughter Mathilde, and he stays on the line as she opens the door for the police. Asger's on the hook, listening as we are, to find out what's happened in the house.
Hallo?
Ja, hvad er der sket med Mathilde?
Jeg ved det ikke, men hun har blod på hænderne og på trøjen.
The first responders find Eben's daughter safe and sound, but they also find their little brother.
Kan du finde ham? Hallo, Tim, er du der?
Det er dødt, barnet. Jeg går lige ud igen.
Vent nu lidt, hvordan ved du, han er død?
Ja, det kan jeg se.
Gå ind til ham igen. Tjek, om han trækker vejret. Har du tjekket? Har du tjekket? Tim, tjek, om han trækker vejret.
Han er død, siger jeg. Han har skåret ham op. Han er helt åben. Jeg må... Nej, du skal ikke komme ind. Du skal ikke ind.
I don't speak Danish, so I can't tell you how much of the magic of this movie is lost when you watch it with subtitles. But I'll tell you this, it can't be much, because this film makes me sweat. It's the purest form of broadcast horror that I've ever seen. It's cramped. It's intense. It's suffocating. And its narrative power is based on the connection between us and the protagonist. We know what they know. We hear what they hear. And we see what they see, little to nothing at all. There's no dramatic irony. There's only that little voice in the back of your head, now a captive audience, silently asking, what happened next? And if you can get your audience to ask you that, they're yours.
On the air, hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time.